Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I am very excited for the next half hour or so. We got a special guest that has just been all over lately. If you've watched my program for the past couple of years, you've probably seen him here or there. He's one of the originators of Rockfin, and one of the guys that stands strong today, doing all sorts of great things independently. Mi Casa, Su Casa Network's own Niko House. Niko, how are you?
Hey man, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me back on, bro. It's been a long time. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and you hit me up on Twitter while I was in Florida. I hit you back. I wasn't even sure if you were there because I realized that
I
now.
actually was not in Florida when I hit you up. I was just checking in on you.
Yeah, and I thought about it because I was like, you know what? I've seen him all over lately. I know that we were discussing it before the break, but you're now working for RT, and RT will work you like a dog. Make no mistake about it. You sign up for, everybody says, oh, I want to be this person or that person. There is a lot of commitment that goes along with that. And on top of that, it's hard enough to become an independent presence in media. People act like that's an easy thing. It is not an easy thing. You have to work like a dog day and night just to do that. And then to take this on, why don't you just tell people how all this came to fruition and how much you've been doing, brother?
And I'm glad you said that because I get work like a dog. Don't get it twisted. And I probably do a little bit more work now than I did whenever I was just completely and totally independent, obviously, because I have to worry about my show plus the actual RT stuff. But like you said, bro, when you're trying to get to where we're at, there is no shortcuts. I mean, at least if you want long-term sustainable growth. And working hard is like not something that is foreign to me. So it was kind of like a hand in glove fit. They had actually been watching me, I want to say for about a year and a half. That like right before the elections is when they really started paying close attention to me because I had went on a couple of shows. I went on, I want to say Crosstalk once.
Okay.
I covered. They had me on live a couple of times on their just regular news channel. Then they had me on Ben Swan's show when he actually did a forum on debate night. I think and that debate got canceled, but they ended up doing I think two separate town halls or something like that. And then all the executive producers actually separately kind of reached out to the head guy in charge. It was like, why doesn't this guy have a show on RT? Why haven't we had him like back full time? And then actually the thing that stopped them from pulling the trigger early was that they said they kind of couldn't believe that I was as consistent as I am without some sort of ulterior motive.
Don't
There
you
are news
hate that,
networks on
man?
the show. Huh?
Let's talk about that for a second. You know what I mean? Because if you haven't noticed, I first of all, I don't attack anybody. But I
Yeah.
like to think that the people that I consistently go to are people that I believe have integrity and believe what they're saying and aren't there for a grift,
Yeah.
right? And well, and I wasn't going to bring up the Rittenhouse trial or anything, or even Rittenhouse himself until you said that, because one of the things that really bothers me is people that don't really do that want to play team baseball, right? They want to be the progressive or they
Majority.
want to
Yeah.
be the conservative or whatever. Rittenhouse started talking with Tucker Carlson last night how Lynn Wood and Pierce, his original lawyers, were basically grifters that were keeping him in jail and stealing his money.
Wow.
Exactly, man. And look, I realize
Wow.
that way back in the day, Lynn Wood did some good in that Olympic bombing case. I get it. There's a reason why Clint Eastwood made the movie. But when you saw what was going on, especially at the tail end of the psychosis of people believing in superheroes on message boards and fighting the deep state with alphabet letters, right? Lynn,
Yeah.
Lynn Wood pushed it so hard. And he had that anonymous person on tape talking about Pence and all these other people that people think is James Clapper. Well, if you have you seen that, Niko?
I haven't seen that yet.
So that was literally a little bit before the election. Lynn Wood was obviously this big figure that was in every conservative show and all this stuff. But he showed this video where it was supposedly a deep state whistleblower, And who knows what's going on the inside. We could talk about Seth Rich in that case, and the fact that Seymour Hersh's FBI agent on the inside was McCabe, apparently, according to Court.
I remember that.
That's wild, right? So whenever, I know we're talking some inside baseball here, folks, but I mean, that is a wild contradiction that someone like McCabe, who on the outset was so heavy against the Trump administration, at least visually, would leak a document like that, or the contents of a document like that, to Seymour Hersh, and then have that come out years later and the media ignore it. But anyway, he had a guy basically with his face blurred out that a lot of people, thought was Clapper, and probably is Clapper, because Clapper's a fucking snake. Okay?
The worst.
Just the worst. And he said just, basically child prostitution rings, and not that stuff doesn't happen, but I think that he was throwing out what everybody wanted to hear, a lot of disinformation. And some of these people, man, you see them, you've seen them outside of this thing. They are grifters. They are grifters. And they want a little extra money, and they want the fame, and they just want to be a persona. And that's, I've never seen you about that. I've always seen you be consistent with your views, call bullshit out when it comes. And that's why I'm so happy that you're on this network, because people need more of that. So speak. Go ahead.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. And that's, when I first started doing this, I was working 2 jobs. I would literally go to work in Boca, which is like 40 minutes away. For the majority, I get up at 5 a.m. because of the drive, get off at about 6, come back down here. Sometimes I would do Uber. I would do 1 or 2 videos at night. On the weekend, I would do Uber, and I would do this. I wake up at 6 in the morning, bust out 4 or 5 videos, go do Uber all day, because I just refuse to have my commentary or my analysis or my activism be co-opted by finances. And it's not always overt, right? Sometimes you live above your means too quickly, and that will trap you. Mm-hmm. Other times it's, you get brought on maybe as a feature on TYT, right? You get 1 feature, then 2 features. Well, now we just want you part-time. And then you get so used to the love and the adoration that you get from being a part of that limited hangout, if you will. And then you just get brought in, and then people actually believe that they start to believe the bullshit that comes out of their mouth, or they start tailoring their words and their analysis to the audience that's receiving it from them, that they've gotten the most love and adoration from. And I just refuse to fall into that crowd. And I went homeless doing this. When I used to have my show on iHeartRadio, on American Freedom Radio, you can see my stuff in my back seat. Mm-hmm. I still did it every Friday. Shout out to my 7 patrons that I had at the time that were paying my phone bill, so I can live stream from my iPad. And just to know that we've gotten this far from just being consistent, telling the truth, being willing to involve, being willing to admit when I'm wrong, and also helping other people do the same, right? Like letting people know, like, you have a place. That's what the MCSC network was always about, letting people know, hey, if you want to do honest journalism, you have a place, and I will do whatever's in my power to help you be as autonomous as I've been fortunate enough to be, doing what I love to do, for all the right reasons.
And that's the way to go. And I want to speak to that whole narrative of people now falling in love with their audience and then giving them more of what they want to hear, because I think that's important. I've heard a lot of critics, especially for Rockfin as a platform, that, well, they're using similar algorithms, they're feeding people what they want to see. But I think with people like myself, I take as many opportunities to say things that I know some of my audience is going to hate, because it's the truth. Mm-hmm. For instance, I just recently hosted the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show, right? So I
heard, man, a lot of people were emailing me about it.
Oh, were they? I bet you that pissed some people off. But at the same time,
yeah, they were happy about it.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Well, that's good, man. Because look, that's a large platform, and I get to take Elon Musk to task, and seriously, and I get to put out, the information I feel. No one says, hey, you can't say this to me. No one preps me for anything or any of that. And then when I'm on the air with Jones, I get to kind of wrangle it away from when he says, these leftists, these bastard leftists, these godless leftists. You know what I mean? Because that's not what I'm about, and I've never been about. I don't believe in that bullshit. I think that most people are good at heart, and unfortunately, you get fooled into thinking that these political paradigms are somehow set up to rise up the little man when you look at the top of the structures, and it's always oppressing us. Doesn't matter right or left, okay? But the big thing is my next one on there, the next time I go on there and I host, I'm just going to tear Trump up. I'm going.
He's been playing the game a little bit too much, huh?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I've never been a Trump fan. I've always called out his bullshit, and I'm just going to give that a compilation because I know there's still some people that watch that show that are just hardcore Donnie T. I realize Roger Stone is on that program. But that's not something I'm going to get censored on. Really. I mean, seriously. And I would love, InfoWars, if you want to set this up, any of you back guys, set up a 2-hour interview with me and Roger Stone. I would dig into that. But all the gloves are off.
In InfoWars defense, they've never really been shy about bringing on opposing voices.
That's true.
Give them that.
Yeah. And who knows? Because I got to dig into Roger Stone really quick. But it would be legit stuff. I'm not mad about Russiagate, Raj. I know that's bullshit. I don't think you and Assange are like foreign agents of some stuff, but you got to have some mea culpas for bringing in lobbying, especially to the generation it is now that has helped empower the deep state, right? You got to be able to take these people to task. You got to say, hey, bro, look who was in the inside of that Trump administration from the beginning. Mattis, then Bolton, Pompeo, are you fucking kidding me? We lied, we cheated, we stole. We had entire courses about it. I mean, come on.
Allowing Bannon to be removed.
And not standing up for Flynn when he was in the right. I'm no Michael Flynn fan, okay? But you bring in a Secretary of Defense that doesn't want to be in Syria, does want to de-escalate the wars. I mean, let's work with him. As soon as they attack him, don't let him go. Let's work with him. Because we sure didn't get that after the fact, Niko. So those are the type of things that I think that audience needs
and a guy who's willing to hold and demand that a previous administration be held accountable.
Thank you.
That we've never seen before. Not in any meaningful way, I mean.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. That's a good turning point to kind of discuss where this kind of zombie J, Kamala Hay administration is. The media is playing it up like, oh, there's some kind of rift. I don't know that there can be a rift with a dementia-ridden old man that's shitting himself at the Vatican. I think the problem is, obviously you're managing Biden's time and what he's saying to people and who's allowed to talk to him. But at the same time, you're kind of doing the same thing with Harris.
Yeah, they're really treating Joe Biden like Kawhi Leonard's knees, honestly, with the low management, because and it's obvious they're constantly trying to keep him away from the camera because it seems like every single time he gets in front of the camera, his approval ratings are dropping. And Jason, you and I know enough about approval ratings to know whatever they're willing to show us, it's probably worse than that.
Way worse. Again, we're gaslit in a time in history where, we're on YouTube right now, so there's certain topics that we won't even discuss. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're gaslit in a manner that this is supposed to be the most popular president in the most safe and fair election of all time, that people were out in the streets, of all time, out in the streets for Joe Biden, when all visual and sensory evidence prior to the fact said otherwise. I mean, you could see how many people showed up to his rallies. I mean, let's put it in perspective, right? When we talk about the Democratic Party or the left or what is visualized as that, you had masses of people during the first throes of a pandemic out in the street for movements like
the pandemic. Or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you had BLM, you had the Summer of Love and the Chaz. There was no problem with those people that were left-leaning and voting or thinking that way to get together in mass and ignore, social distancing. Mm-hmm. They didn't show up for Joe Biden rallies. Donald Trump, I'm just saying, Donald Trump was, during the whole thing, had stadiums and outdoor Air Force bases where they're turning away people, Niko.
I remember. And they were attacking him for it while simultaneously. And they were outside for the most part. I remember a lot of them were outside And then whenever people were protesting, which I'm all about First Amendment, by the way, I'm not saying they shouldn't have protested. I
No.
don't give a damn. I was like, I don't know why y'all protested with a mask on. So I didn't give a damn, right? But my thing was, they were attacking Trump in the same breath, saying, "Oh, how could he have this many people at a rally? This is what do they call it? A super spreader event." But then when it came to the protests, it was, "Oh, nah, it's actually." I think Fauci actually came out and greenlighted the protests. Like,
He
nah,
did.
it's okay.
He did. But it wasn't even a green light. So basically, what happened was, because I watched it and I played it on the show, they had him.
Yeah, no, you're like a masochist, bro. You love subjecting yourself to their fucking bullshit. I be cringing listening to it. You're like,
I can't help it, man.
Let's go ahead and drink this poison together, everybody.
Well, I gotta watch it. You know, like for instance, the other night, and it's gotten coverage almost nowhere. I didn't even really do a video on it. But when on Thursday night last week, when they were getting ready for that Build Back Better bill, right? Which, you know, I've recently pointed out that Build Back Better, if you really want to go back to the Democratic Party and who was pushing that, Cuomo was the first one to push it because the fear was all in New York. He'd already had the plan to basically give everything, contact tracing to Bloomberg, give the education system to Gates, the smart cities to Eric Schmidt. He knew what the talking point was. We've all heard the Build Back Better. We've seen the compilation. So he's the first guy. And they had to burn him in a sex pest scandal because he's a serial killer. I mean, like literally, you know? I mean, that's the reality of it. And
he was standing in Kamala's way, right? Because remember, I don't know if you remember how him and Whitmer and Gavin Newsom were being propped up during the pandemic. And then they all became top 5 primary candidates. And then Kamala was like, whoa, I don't like actually competing for my position. So all 3 of them, we need all of them to come down with scandals right now. And they got shut down.
I think it's more a cover on for at least for, you know, I mean, Newsom got over a scandal.
No, I believe it's also cover-ups too, right?
Well, yeah.
Newsom all 3 of them fucked up.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah, well.
Policy, like in policy, signed off on policy, putting fucking COVID patients,
Whoa, that's where we can't talk about it. That's the problem. We're on YouTube.
Oh, my bad.
No, that's why I'm trying to keep it kind of like, exactly. Hey. No, you know what? The World Health Organization and Andrew Cuomo did a fine job in New York City.
Fine job. Just a sexual predator. Other than that, stand-up guy.
It's a stand-up guy. That's wild, right? But anyway, my point being that this guy who was the House Speaker for the Republicans filibustered for 4 fucking hours. So I was up during like hour 2. And I just happen to, you know, I go to the Daily Mail a lot because whether you like Daily Mail or not, they're a good aggregate because they literally on the first page have like 30 stories. And then as soon as you scroll down, there's another 30 stories.
Immediately, man. Like as soon as you refresh the page.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a text section, science section. You can actually go by category and they're all linked to regular articles if they're not theirs. And by the way, they happen to break some big things outside of tabloid that nobody in this country would touch. You know, they're far from perfect, but I go there and I see that they say this guy's speaking for 2 hours and he's still going. So I hit over to C-SPAN, man. And he's not perfect by any means. But when he starts talking about what's happening in this bill regarding our taxes and our bank accounts and guilty until proven innocent and mobilizing the Justice Department against the people and parents at school boards, I mean, that's frightening stuff. And I never thought I'd see a day where not only is that going on, but then the people in the background got to wear masks.
Yeah, it's creepy, man. It's something out of a movie. But the problem is, you talk about this stuff a lot. They always slow roll it out, right? We remember when we had this conversation about the rioters back in the day. I think it might have been the very first episode I came on with you guys, and I was like, the problem that I have with people being so willing to jump to the word riot is because they don't understand what the legal implication of that is and what that means in the eyes of the deep state and the intelligence community. I said that will be used to implement domestic terrorism laws, and it will be used to implement a curfew. They will say it's about the riots at first, but it will not stay there. And literally, that is exactly what happened.
Yep.
And people were just they were like, whatever, I guess we've been dealing with a curfew this whole time, whatever, it's not even a big deal. It's like, no, they just violated the Constitution, because they shouldn't have actually been able to implement the curfew to violate constitutional rights anyway. Absolutely. They should have handled them in pockets and dealt with those who are violating the law. You can't just blanket apply a situation like that unless it was really a widespread issue across the country. And then on top of that, once again, when you're talking about the domestic terrorism aspect of it, which we all know, because what they do, first day you said the word riot to blame BLM and Antifa, which I don't actually like Antifa nor the national organization of BLM, although I do respect the local ones. Mm-hmm. But they then said, now Proud Boys, because it was the fix was always in, right? Biden was going to be the president, one by hook or by crook, and they had already known. So now that we got BLM out the way, by attaching Antifa to them, and the legitimate organizers out the way, now let's go after the Proud Boys, because you got to clean up that mess. Because if you don't know any better, Tario is a Fed, which I actually was predicting for like 3 or 4 months before the January 6th mm-hmm. incident. Mm-hmm. And then he got caught with magazines. And then, I know his lawyer came out and was like, hey guys, can we cut him a break? He's an informant for the FBI. So, and then McGinnis, he was one founder of Vice. Dad's member, a defense contractor for the Canadian government. It was a setup, but you got to clean that mess up. So anybody who's associated with the Proud Boys and therefore quote unquote associated with Trump, you got to go too. It was always a setup. If they do it so slowly and it's at a creep that if you're not paying attention, you'll even cheer for it while it's happening until it happens to your team.
And the thing is that I've been warning that this infrastructure was built post 9/11. Homeland Security was nothing more than Deutschland security. And even prior to the Trump presidency, right, so much of this was already set up. And still the mainstream media has not discussed inside the military's secret undercover army. This is from May of this year. And let me just read
that's been talked about before.
Absolutely, but
there was a couple of years ago they came out with an article like this.
What's frightening about this one is it is extremely detailed. Like, you go into it, it actually shows you the technologies. One of which is the craziest one to me, is this hand glove. And basically, this hand glove fits over your hand. It is indistinguishable from a hand. Gets better. It can have any fingerprint you want, and then on top of that, it can emit human oils. But let me just read.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this article, it's quite extensive. But let me read the first paragraph for you because it's really important. By the way, this is on a thing called signature reduction. That is not a unit. It has no real official office, and they call it an art form. The largest undercover force the world has ever known is the one created by the Pentagon over the past decade. Some 60,000 people now belong to this secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of a broad program called signature reduction. The force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover, in real life and online, sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies, some of them household name companies. So in other words, bots, real people, all these pseudo-intelligence agencies, these consultancy agencies.
Assets.
It's all over the place, and this has been operating for a decade. It goes on to tell you how there is no congressional oversight, and there has been no hearing ever about this. You should really read this, Niko, and see if you guys...
Man, that's wild. That's wild.
I would love to see if RT could get the documents that Newsweek got through FOIAs, because the raw documents about this program are not available. And I think it would be utterly shocking if there was a focus on this project. I mean, think about it. This is the modern day, what we call Gestapo, the secret police in Russia, right? The FSB, the KGB. This is it, man. I mean, these are brown shirt types.
Keep it simple. It's CIA. I mean, we don't gotta go. We don't gotta go O'Conan's. We just keep it right here, domestic. It's
you know what? I'm so glad you said that.
I wish. I'm almost kind of glad, Jason. I'm glad that they've put a name to it. Signature reduction is like, now we don't have to have these like super vague, abstract, like trying to explain to the normies, like, hey man, this is how it works. They're like, but why don't they, all that's crazy. No, okay, so you know what? They actually have a name for it now, because CIA is kind of stupid, right? They sometimes make our jobs easier for us. It almost makes you so upset that the people constantly get played by the same organizations that follow half of their Hollywood assets on Instagram. Like literally follow Matt Damon, follow Mark Wahlberg, follow all the 007s who are still alive, even the 007 page. They follow Ben Affleck. This is the same organization. So I'm kind of glad that they label it for us, actually, because it makes our job a lot easier.
It is kind of funny. And you know what? You said the CIA. I have to bring this up because this happened while I was sitting last night. This blue check mark, Alex Kaplan, Twitter has allowed a hashtag pushing a conspiracy theory about the CIA and the assassination of President John F. Kennedy to trend nationally.
What do you think his job is? Where do you think he belongs to?
I mean, my God, CIA killed JFK.
Bro, just get a name tag. Get a name tag that says fucking signature reduction on your shit, bro. Are you kidding me? It was when it happened, everybody was like, yeah, we all kind of think that the government killed him. Literally everybody felt like that. It was like 70% of the country's population at the time. Like, yes, because the CIA is hiding the documents from the assassination because they had nothing to do with the assassination. That makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. I mean,
hey, by the way, you know I live across the street from the Bay of Pig Museum.
Do you really? Have you ever been there?
I park in the parking lot for my apartment parking.
Have you been in yet?
No. Man, them Gusanos be looking at me every time I walk to my car. They look at me like, because everybody here thinks I'm Cuban or Dominican, but because of the areas I live in, they think I'm Cuban, and so even my neighbors half the time. So when they look at me, they think I'm one of them like black Cubans that like are pro Castro regime, and so I like walk to my car and they think I'm walking into the museum, and they all just stare at me, and all I can think in my head is, damn, bro, I wonder how many of these dudes are CIA agents. That's the first, because like, come on, bro. Like,
well,
when I really began to piece it, because they had like a remembrance thing recently, and it was, I mean, the parking lot was packed. Everybody had their Cuban flag and their American flag, and then Patria y Vida on their cars and shit. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, Niko, you work for RT. You're constantly calling out the CIA and the deep state, and you live across the street from the Bay of Pigs Museum, where you know the CIA employed these motherfuckers, and it has never crossed your mind, not one single time, until that day. And I was like, shit, I need to move soon. Real soon.
Oh, man. Yeah. Are you moving? I mean, Florida's big. So I drove through the state pretty much almost down to the Keys, but I stopped in Florida City for a couple days because I wanted to stop, and it had good Wi-Fi in the place. So I was like, oh, I can buckle down a couple days here before everybody gets there for the wedding.
Get that good Wi-Fi, man, on the road. You're like, well, let me go ahead and chill for a little bit.
That's always what I do. That's exactly, like when I'm on the road, especially because I won't fly right now, I drive, and once I find something that does have good Wi-Fi, maybe I'll hole up a couple days, get some projects done. And then if it's no good, it's a one-nighter. It's a one-nighter unless I got to stay, like, for some odd reason. But I was in Florida City. And like second day I went to go get a haircut because I was going down to this wedding, and I wish you would have told me, man. My barber would have well, I walk up and like the window's blacked out, but I can kind of see everybody in it, so I just kind of try to open it, but it's locked.
Yeah.
I'm like, what neighborhood am I in? So it's locked. They come to the door, they let me in. I'm dark enough so people start talking Spanish to me. I'm like, nope, sorry. Just enough.
That's the first thing here, bro. That's the first thing gonna speak to you.
Yep, exactly.
Or Creole.
But
not for you, though.
They gave me the dopest haircut, but then they also had like a music studio in there, so we got talking, and they were asking.
Miami, bro. My barber is a manager for multiple for music artists, and he is a celebrity barber, and I'm like. Is this just like a Miami thing?
Must be. Got a great haircut, great talk. They were like, oh, you got to check out our music, blah, blah, blah. And went down to the Keys with a great haircut. So Florida, this last time, I actually want to go back and take a vacation, man. I think I might do it sometime this winter and just kind of take a break.
Do it. Come to the studio. I got it set up so that we can do it. You can do it in studio.
All right. Well, I got a studio suitcase now, too, with a lot of extra gear. I moneyed up a little bit. And, it looks pretty good. I'm excited about that. Tell people what you're up to now, man. Like, because, again, you got a ton coming up. Obviously, I saw you were live right before this show. Where are you going next for RT? Where you been? Where can everybody check out your stuff? Because it's at Niko CSFB on Twitter, but you're just up to so much.
So where I've been in the last month or so, I've been to New York. I was covering the anti-mandate protests out there. Also, I was covering the King versus De Blasio case, which has actually had some very promising developments. Namely, that they actually said that they can reapply because the selection process for who was granted religious exemptions versus who weren't was actually not constitutional. So that's a big case. I've been following it since the beginning. And I had Michael Caine on today to talk about that. It's on Rockfin actually. It's only on Rockfin given and Odyssey given the conversation. And then I just got back from Omaha, Nebraska, actually. Yeah, man, it's cold out there. I also found out that basically the majority of the state lives in two places. Like that's actually closer to Iowa, and then the rest of Nebraska is just kind of like out there, which is pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what that's about.
Oh man, I'm in the Midwest now. I see it all the time. People, that's my thing. I've been traveling like well over a decade, 15 years. Driving a lot. And when these people tell me that human beings are bad and there's too much of us, I'm like, motherfucker, drive coast to coast. Forget about just being in the plane. All right, just drive coast to coast. And you'll see all these empty areas. They're not like hugely environmental. Like not all of them are wooded and nice. They could all be developed. That's the thing. We could live in harmony with nature. We're not going to be perfect, but the idea that you're bad.
Wakanda, they got it right. If you look at Wakanda, they are literally in harmony with nature. I'm like, bro, this is exactly how this shit should be. It's not even that. This isn't even ugly. It doesn't look bad. It looks actually beautiful. The buildings are covered with pretty flowers and all and trees and the infrastructure is built around the trees versus cutting them down, which is lazy as shit.
Well, I don't even want to get into the tree thing right now because people like Bill Gates will tell you that there's no way that we can reduce our carbon by planting trees because the soil is just so terrible. Like we can't.
Oh, that's what he said.
Oh my God, bro. Seriously,
the divorce is really hitting him hard, man. He must be off the yak. He must be really off
I mean, again, and this is the guy who's telling you the soil is bad and we can't fix the soil problem. He's the largest farmer in the United States now. That's good news. Yeah, partnered with Monsanto years ago. Great. I'm so glad that Bayer and Monsanto could make that marriage, that relationship that lasts forever as well.
Which, by the way, basically Bayer is like, it's like whenever a club gets shot up in the hood, they just change the name so that they can save the brand. That's basically what Bayer's become. Because I know that like Monsanto like bought Bayer, but I'm like, they didn't even need to do that to do what they do. But they're like, well, people trust Bayer a little bit more, so let's go with that one instead.
Yeah, it's almost like Blackwater. Like one day full circle they'll come back, but for a while they'll be Academy or XE Services or whatever they want to call it. So continue, brother. What else? Yeah.
So I was in Omaha, Nebraska, actually covering. We're doing a documentary on the Kellogg strike. So Michigan. So was it something? Battle Creek, Michigan, Omaha, Nebraska, Memphis, Tennessee, and Pennsylvania. I think it's in Hershey's. I think it's in Hershey's, Pennsylvania, where all the factories are. There's a massive strike, costing them over $10 million a day because of how these workers have band together. And that's actually, I love doing stories like this because this is actually a unique scenario where, so they have a two-tier system where 70% are legacy workers. They get all their benefits, 30% get basically none of the benefits, but have to work all the same hours and they're just as accountable. And the legacy workers actually sacrifice everything and put it on the line for the transitional workers instead of throwing them under the bus, even though a lot of them are about to retire. They gave up their Kellogg's cut off their healthcare benefits, bro. Somebody just had to sell everything because his daughter required open heart surgery. Cut off in the transitional workers, because they didn't have any security basically before that, they were getting paid $10 to $15 less, even if they would have had the same amount of years. They had to get second jobs to maintain, but the legacy workers who really have the most to lose, they built a family up. Some of them have been working there so long, they're able to have rental properties because they've done so well for themselves, which is how it should be, by the way. Mm-hmm. And they're really fighting for the transitional workers. And that's, for me, when you see that is exactly what you're supposed to do with any kind of privilege that you may have been fortunate enough to have. Because let's not get it twisted. Jason and I, we're lucky to be as successful we are at this. Yeah, we work hard. Yeah, we may be willing to go to places, and yeah, we may be willing to do the research others may not be. But bro, it's a lot of luck involved because there are people just as good at what we do, but don't ever get seen
at all.
And when you take that and uplift others that's truly inspirational to me.
And it's the same adage, you know. We can all hang separate or we can hang together. You know, I'd rather take that run and hang together. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's why, you know, I've always been a huge advocate of free speech. You can take somebody to task. Everything's not black and white. Good people do bad things. Smart people get things wrong. All those things. We can have differences of opinion. But the one thing that we should agree on, that no questions are out of bounds at all, and that free speech is absolute. I'm a free speech absolutist. If you're an ignorant, racist bigot, let me know. Let me know. Say what you're going to say. I don't want to know what you're saying. I want to know what you're thinking. You can say what you think, you know, and then we'll have
I'd rather know, please. Like, bro, if my presence offends you, just let me know, dog.
Just let me know.
Or better yet, let me know and I can ask you why. And I will. And in fact, because I've literally converted racists. People who've watched my channel, like in person or on my channel, people have told me, hey man, you really changed the way I thought about X, Y, and Z. I didn't even consider this. And I mean, because every single one of us, and it usually depends on the household you're raised in, as to what type of propaganda you've been exposed to, but we've all been victim to propaganda. I don't give a damn who you are.
We're all brainwashed,
how many
man.
Books you've read, how much college education you have. All of us are subject to propaganda.
And you know what? Not even propaganda. Let's take it a step further, because the man that wrote propaganda was Edward Bernays, and he was also the father of public relations. And when we talk about public relations and PR, we talk about advertising campaigns. And all of us have succumbed to that at some level. I'm wearing an Adidas hat in Adidas pants, and this is the same thing I've been wearing since I was 12 years old.
Oh God, I have an iMac, I have a MacBook Pro, I have iPad Air 2 and an iPad Pro. I have an iPhone 12 Pro Max. My wife has an iPhone 10 Max. I have a backup phone that I actually just gave to my niece. Like, look, we're all subject.
We got to, and you know what? That's the thing. That's a part of being human. You got to have that realization. You got to try to control that as best you can. Come to grips with it. Realize that you're not perfect. And maybe somebody who's seeing the world in a very, very different way than you is subject to that same thing from another angle. We're being hit hard on every screen, on every billboard, on every radio ad, on every television show, with propaganda we've never seen on a global level, with a global message. And I know that you're fighting that message, because it's not one of free speech. It's not one of free elections. It's not one of the betterment of humanity in their workforce and in their health care. And you're the kind of guy that wants transparency and justice in all those realms. So tell people how they can support you and where they can find all your work, Niko.
So you can find obviously a lot of my work at RT, their YouTube channel, or if you watch it on TV. I don't know if you all caught my Genoa piece. I went to Genoa, Nebraska while I was actually in Omaha, Nebraska, because a story came up across our desk where we found out over 100 indigenous kids had been confirmed killed while attending one of these forced assimilation schools. This one was called the U.S. Indian School. And so that one just aired, but that's also on my Twitter account, at Niko, NIKO CSFB. I'm on YouTube at MCSC Network, and I also have the Niko House News. Also, you gonna love this one. So I have 2 videos on my backup channel, right?
Okay.
2 videos, Jason. I hadn't posted anything else. Go to Nebraska while I'm on a plane back. I posted my debate, and then I posted something that had nothing to do with COVID whatsoever. And my channel got demonetized without a strike given at all. And 2 videos, mind you, Destiny posted. It was a debate with me and Destiny. Destiny posted the exact same video. He live streamed it actually at the time it was happening. Nothing.
It's so weird. It's so weird how there's double standard.
1,400 subscribers to that channel, bro.
Yeah. Listen, if you don't think we're targets, again, they pinned me for cyberbullying either Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, maybe.
Us too, bro. They literally said cyberbullying. I'm like, cyberbullying? Well, we do be going in on Joe Biden. Let me see what this is about. And then it was like Epstein. I was like, bro, I know that y'all did not dock us for bullying Epstein. Are you fucking? The man was supposedly dead, by the way. Supposedly.
You know what? That's the deck. Those are the T-shirts we need to make. We need to make like a signature reduction, like rock band T-shirt. Like it's got to look like that. Like people want to look into it. You know what I mean? And then we need to be, I cyberbullied Epstein, and or YouTube said I cyberbullied Epstein, and just like a face of like Epstein's.
Wild. It's wild to me, man, and it's so obvious. And I know it's going to be a while, but the lawsuit, in my humble opinion, is coming. Mm-hmm. TikTok is actually involved in a class action lawsuit for data right now. I don't know if you know that.
No.
But yeah, I actually got an email, so I can go ahead and sign up and get my little check.
Wow.
So, oh yeah. So if TikTok is touchable for data and that type of stuff, YouTube is. Right now, I feel like a lot of attorneys feel like YouTube is untouchable, or I know a lot of them are building up a case because this is a decade-long,
it's going to be a tough one, man. They're so bent into the system because it's just a shell. It's part of signature reduction, right? YouTube, hate to tell you, but you're a part of signature reduction. You're literally a shell corporation for Google. You're the largest video platform on the planet. You're subjugating U.S. law by saying that the UN and big tech can dictate, again, what your terms of service are. You are paying people at different percentages, which is, again, all sorts of trust acts, even if they're all independent contractors.
Oh, you're talking about the CPM, right?
Well, not only the CPM, but the fact that they can take a demonetized channel like mine and run ads on it and not pay you.
No, it's fucking insane. And I think it's because they put it in the terms of your service now that it's okay.
Yeah, and the thing is that you have your boss, Google, is in league with NASA, which, again, we've established now, only 20% of that, Niko, is space travel or interstellar travel. 80% are other things. So they've already banded with NASA for quantum supremacy and AI. So now you're at the head of AI in a classified format. Artificial intelligence is changing everything. Quantum computing as well. Your algorithms are probably beyond anything out there. You're not a company. Just because you're traded on the NASDAQ or, down New York City on the stock market doesn't make you a private company, especially when you read something like signature reduction that tells you they're private companies. So
right, and what it really is, right? And that's why and I'm glad you brought that part up, because that was actually a big part of our debate, my debate of Destiny on censorship, because he was claiming that they're private companies and not public companies. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to redefine what you consider to be a public company then, because I'm not a naive 6-year-old where I pretend like, it's like, so I'm a black man. Oh, well, you're not black. You're brown, actually. Look at your skin color. You're brown. No, I mean, yeah, but for the sake of the conversation, given the history of the world, what we know about black, I am a black man. Yeah. I'm actually half white. Doesn't matter. I'm a black man. That's basically the crux of the conversation we were having. He's like, well, they're private companies. I understand. I'm like, well, if they get their funding from here, and they only seem to benefit the government, everything the intelligence community wants, everything the mainstream media is saying, they tailor their algorithms to benefit those people. At what point do we stop pretending as if they're a private company?
And they don't pay taxes, Niko, on top of it all. Yeah, think about that. They don't. So you can't tell me that that's not. It's worse than crony capitalism because, again, it's built on the defense state. We should do an entire episode next month on Google and its connection to the State Department, the Defense Department, and how it's not really a company. I'd love to do that.
Go ahead and tell them what's the only way you can invest in the SpaceX.
What's
I know
that?
You know.
Oh, listen, the SpaceX thing listen, I don't want to get into Niko House. No, what the Dogecoin? Tell me it's not.
No, the only way you can invest in the SpaceX is to invest in the Google. Because Google owns SpaceX, Jason. Did you know that?
No. Well, that would make a lot of sense. Let me see if I have it up here. I probably do because I've been taking Musk to task. But so here's the quantum supremacy thing, and this is another reason, I want to get on there with Jones. I showed this audience, but let's see if we have the SpaceX still thing up here. Basically, they surpassed Lockheed Martin this year. Here it is right here. So they partnered with the military last year, where they can deliver any military cargo anywhere in the world in 1 hour.
Together.
Yeah, 1 hour. And they surpassed Lockheed Martin as the bigger defense contractor and company globally last month. So they are literally the new Raytheon.
And to be clear, that's because, in my humble estimation, Lockheed Martin they benefit, like Pfizer benefits, but they have control over Elon Musk. they have control over Google. They have control because of the control over Google. They have control over SpaceX. It's one thing to be able to have influence over something. It's another thing entirely to be able to have control, guaranteed. And that's what their goal seems to be with SpaceX from the beginning. And I think that you talked about it a lot. Obviously, Whitney Webb talked about it. I definitely talked about it. But it was obvious from the beginning, especially whenever Elon Musk, I talk about this, but a lot of people forget. I know you remember. Elon Musk tried to step away from SpaceX. Remember that?
Yeah, he was talking about it.
Tesla stocks immediately. And he was like, JK, guys. JK, because he remembered, oh shit, I'm only worth all this money specifically because they literally took it from the taxpayers and put it in my pocket.
And you know
not
what?
Because I'm a better businessman, not because I'm smarter than anybody, not because I'm talented, but because of what I'm willing to, the corruption I'm willing to put forth, even if it screws over the people.
That's right, because Tesla wasn't a company that was anything but in the red for the longest of times, and only through those government subsidies was he able to mount that. And really, they've built a cult-like status for him for a reason. My friend, I've got to run. We got to do it soon. I'm also going to be on Martin Floriani's, the founder of Rockfin's, Bad Ideas podcast today. So check that out. And remember, yeah, that should be fun. And remember to check out everything Niko House. I can't wait to see your latest stuff. I'm checking you out on RT.
I'm on Rockfin too, guys. I think it should have been the first thing we said.
Yeah, I mean, we are rocking on Rockfin. I mean, if you wanna be part of free speech, like you want to see last night's mixed martial mindset, the last half an hour that we can't do on YouTube anymore, it's all free. I mean, I give 99% of my stuff away for free. Really, the premium stuff is a bonus. If you get premium on any of us for $9.99 a month or $99.99 for the year, we all benefit. So whether you endorse Niko House or Jason Burmis, you get everybody's content on the platform, and you get to share that information with other people. It's a great thing.
Oh, and I'm part of RT Sports too. And if you go to Double Tech on Rockfin, you'll see our RT Sports channel.
Oh, so you're going to be sliding me those passes for those MMA events soon. That's what I'm hearing.
Hey, man, that's actually what one of the things we're looking at doing, bro, is like we about to get some little.
I'll tell you what, man, I'm calling those fights. They need a correspondent on MMA. I'm the fucking man.
Bro, they love some fucking MMA on RT. It's been a actual drama in RT because of like they had to basically separate the MMA part because it's just RT Sports became totally focused on it, and they were like missing opportunities in other spots. But that's all different.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. The other thing is that Miletich got fired basically from calling LFA events after that. So he's kind of looking for a gig as well. And Pat Miletich, if they look up, he's a UFC Hall of Famer. He's coached UFC Hall of Famers, Matt Hughes, Tim Sylvia. I mean, Miletich Fighting Systems is legendary. He's great on the mic. He used to call Strike Force. I call with Caged Aggression. I think that would be a big FU to the establishment if RT reached out to Pat Miletich.
Man, send me if you got.
I got total contacts with him, and I'll send that to you. That would be a tight fit. Miletich is the man, and I think that would be a perfect fit. So,
yeah, definitely.
We will talk soon. Very excited for you, man. Keep up the great work, and guys, not about left or right. It's about right and wrong. We'll see you on the flip side.